All righty, it is noon and we have all of our participants. So I am going to officially start our September 15th Escondido Rotary Club meeting by ringing the bell.
And right on time.
All right. Invocation from Joe.
All right. Well, let us pray, those that are so inclined. Father God, we are gathered here one more Tuesday to come together as a community of Rotarians to not only find fellowship, but to serve the purpose that we feel that we have been called to do. And that is to help others, to help our neighbors, our friends, and to help those that are around the globe. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I ask you to bring love to each one, to bless generously each one, and that we may be able to continue to bring to others, to be able to help them, to bring to them a smile, a hug, to be able to serve them in their time of need. We ask for this and we thank you in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Where is it? There it is. And
Something I wasn't here.
Vate, you are going to do our Pledge of Allegiance. Lead us in a pledge, please.
My pleasure. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to
Be the
the
flag
flag of the
of
United
the United States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the
for
republic
which it stands,
and to
one nation,
nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Vate. For our patriotic song, I wanted to honor the anniversary of September 11th, even though it fell between meetings. So I offer you this.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right. Welcome to our September 15th meeting. We do have a guest today, our speaker, Tami Wong, who will be introduced in more detail later. But hi, Tami, welcome. Do we have any other guests today? All right. Do we have any visiting Rotarians today? Hearing none, let us honor our guest, Tami, with a beautiful rendition of our Howdy song. Come on, there you go.
Howdy, we're glad to have you here. Welcome, We sing loud and clear. Relax, enjoy the program, and won't you come back to see us again?
Yay. All right. Our calendar on the 16th, we have, that's tomorrow. We have Haven House. Next week, we have Kristen Gaspar speaking on the 29th. Dr. Moyer is bringing us a presentation on American rugby. On the 6th, Blair Lee talk about climate change on the 7th, Haven House. On the 13th, we have another board meeting. On the 13th, we also are tentatively having demotion for Jan. Hopefully, we're still gonna see that happen. Then 20th, Money Made Easy, and on the 21st, another Haven House. If you haven't noticed, Haven House is a great way to be involved. They're out there twice a month, and I know that Kelly is actually going to talk a little bit more about this possibly coming up, but I know she's always got her agenda full with people, but I'm sure she could use some more people, even months out. So I encourage you to get involved. One other quick note on the calendar that's not on here. So we had a meeting on fundraising and what to do in the event of, or in this era of COVID with our fundraiser. We didn't get any conclusions, so we're going to be meeting again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. as well. It is an open meeting. Please feel free to join us next week if you have thoughts or want to see how poorly I run a board meeting.
No, that's not true.
Member moments. Do we have any member moments today?
You mentioned that Colleen was back at the doctor's today. She had gallbladder surgery last week,
She did.
unexpectedly. And I don't know if we announced that.
I wasn't sure if it was for public announcement, honestly. But yes, she is doing well. She did well, obviously. So I don't have details, but we can find out more when Colleen is in the mood. So the only other member moment is that I'm still ugly.
Oh, stop.
Christine, and actually we're doing great.
Oh my gosh, Andy.
So here you go in the wild. Don't worry about rushing it. We have a few minutes.
All
Here,
right.
so go ahead, Christine.
Well, as you can see, this looks pretty fun. Here's Greg Anglia and his interfaith services leaders holding their very first annual meeting via Zoom. So evidently they had a little dance party, or maybe this is before the meeting, but yeah, that's Greg.
Beautiful.
And speaking of Interfaith Community Services and Kelly's project, and here's Rosa, who always does a wonderful job of attending, but also doing the photographs and getting them on social media. So yeah, it looks like a great time. And Rachel's having a wonderful summer. So they had an impromptu weekend in Big Bear, and she and the girls had a wonderful time. And really in the wild, here's Justin and Alex up in the Pacific Northwest making a fire, and then up on the top of the Seattle Needle. And if you have all of your photographs of the people in the room on the right-hand side, you're going to miss Alex falling off the Seattle Needle. Justin and Alex, did you want to say anything about that? About the trip? No? Yes?
I guess
I want to hear about the fire.
That's the campfire for them making
microphone
s'mores for the grandkids.
Justin, your microphone's off still. I can see your lips moving. There you
okay.
go.
There was no fire until we crossed back into the border into California.
Mm.
Oh, so
Beautiful.
you're responsible.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm curious, is Alex falling off the Space Needle because of the raccoon that stole your food? Is it attacking her there, or?
Apparently.
Or you can see there's just a little tiny bit of beer left in her glass.
Notice it, I did not spill it falling down.
Yep.
Good job. Good job. All right.
That's cool.
Catching more beer from heaven. Yes, absolutely, Chirito. Okay.
One more?
Yeah, I'm probably.
Yes, and here's Ken Manell and his wife enjoying their 53rd anniversary, is it, Ken?
That's right.
53. I thought that's how old you were.
Made it.
Thank you.
Wow. Anyway, they're at Cordillera Winery.
Wow.
Yeah. Congratulations to you both. That's quite a milestone.
That is.
I'm lucky.
That's. I hope to live 53 years, much less having a relationship for 53 years. Oh, wait a minute. I'm past 53. Well, whatever. Quick
If I put all my marriages together, I'm going to be more than 53.
There you go. That's a way to look at it. Quick question. There's someone in our meeting. It's a phone. It's a long distance number 1-818-159-9671. Can you unmute yourself and tell us who you are, please? All right. Well, not knowing who you are, I may have to remove you from the meeting because I don't know who you are, and we don't want to be disrupted. So really like for you to speak up and say hello, wave something. I'll give you a couple minutes. We'll move on.
Interesting how they can move.
All right. Service Spotlight. Miss Kelly Cloud, how are you?
I am doing good, thanks. It's nice to finally see everybody sort of here. You know, I still wish we could meet in person, but oh well. But yeah, I have been asked this week to kind of explain what inspires me service-wise. As most of you know, when I did my Who Am I talk, you know, born with cerebral palsy, told I wasn't going to be able to walk, anything like that. Helped my mom with her Rotary experiences and did some Girl Scouts and whatnot. But what was interesting was it really hit me in high school when I ran the Community Service League there, and with my friends, and we ended up about once a week, we would do about 2 hours at a hospital, meeting cerebral palsy kids, going in, reading to them, talking to them, really getting a good kind of like spending one-on-one quality time. And it really meant a lot because some of these kids, their parents would never visit them. We were their only visitors. And although their bodies would not move, they were so smart and their eyes told everything. They were so excited. You could just see it in everything they did. And that really was a turning point in my life. I realized at that point that, you know, everything can be done. There's, you know, no excuses for me anymore. I can't do anything other than just keep pushing on. And that continued on with sorority and community. That continued on when I started work. I've been doing work with the Community Service League at BOMA. We do like summer workshop programs for, you know, where we would help build stuff at the Boys and Girls Club, or help with the food bank, help with the community gardens and planting, help with schools that needed to be rebuilt, things like that. We do backpack drives, promise to kids at the holiday, as well as all the great things we do here at Rotary. So when I was asked a couple of years ago to head up Haven House, you know, absolutely, I was going to jump up and say yes. Again, no excuses. I don't care, you know, whether what trials and tribulations we've all had. We can all make that extra effort. You know, we can move on. There is no can't. So that's where that drive really comes from for me. And I really hope to, my goal at Lisa's Haven House is to really hope to get more people involved. I have my core group, which I love and dearly because they are always there for me, but I'm always looking for new blood, new volunteers, new helpers, because this is such a great way to give back. This isn't a handout for those, it's a hand up. It helps them move forward, and we can do that for them because we all can do things. You know, there is no can't in any of our lives. Again, it's just excuses if we don't. So I encourage all of you to please, 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 donate where you can. If one of us asks you to help, say yes, jump on that limb, and you will enjoy whatever it is, I'm sure, because we have a great group here. We're all willing to help. That's why we're here. So whatever we can lend a lending hand, let's do it, guys. So thanks, and it's great to see you guys.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kelly. And that is very powerful. That is why we are here. And you nailed it. You nailed it exactly why we're here. And thank you very much for everything you do.
Way to go, Kelly.
There we go. Nice.
You're welcome.
Nice. That was impressive. All right. This bad timing here. Charito, would you like to talk about your word of the week?
Thank you, Andy. I'm not sure I was supposed to talk about it.
Yes, you were.
But if anyone have noticed the center view, I hid some words in there. I just thought it would be fun if you, this is my way of finding out if you're reading our center view. Otherwise, I would be working so hard to get it out there and nobody's reading it. I would cry. So please, these people here, Wendy Schaefer got the Rotary pin, and it's a really nice pin. And some of the replies there made me laugh all day because it's like maybe they could not pronounce it, but don't ask me, I can't pronounce it either. But there's another hidden word there. Please find it and read your center view, please. Thank you.
I think it's pronounced Frank.
I think it's pronounced pedal on. Thank you, guys.
Okay. I'm going to kick you out in a minute. Not you, the cat. All righty. Here we go. Yes, this is the last, my last notice to you about this. Please, this is actually a free event to go to log into for the Children's Discovery Museum. It's their 20th anniversary. They're going to have a virtual gala and auction. The fundraising will obviously come through the auction. But I encourage you to go to the website and sign up. And the Children's Discovery Museum, their directors are members of our club. We've been there supporting them for years. Let's support them again this year. And now, our fun song from our fabulous Ken Howland Chipmunk Manel.
Well, hi, Tami. We have a little song to welcome you to our club today. Oh, give me a home with a very fine wine, where Tami Wong will give it a grade, where all-knowing taste lets the wine speak. Now she'll tell us just how it is made. Wine, wine, have a taste. Tami Wong is an expert, they say. Now let's listen to her, and we will all learn. So welcome to Rotary this day. Welcome, Tami, to Escondido Rotary. Cheers.
Nice, yay! Lots of applause in the crowd. Good
That's
job.
fantastic. So cool.
All right. So Tami, I'm going to have our have Vate introduce you here, and then I'm unstopping my own share, and you'll be able to click up your share as soon as as soon as Vate is done introducing you. Please go ahead, Vate.
Thank you so much. Tami, welcome. A San Diego native and a lifelong veteran of the restaurant world, Tami Wong was recognized by Wine and Spirits magazine as one of the best new sommeliers in 2014. And she is the second sommelier from San Diego to ever hold that distinction, even to this day. Tami's experience in the wine industry includes stints as wine director of La Jolla's iconic La Valencia Hotel and Juniper and Ivy in Little Italy. Tami currently serves as the ambassador and member of the education committee for the San Diego County Vintners Association. She is a founding member of NAT San Diego, which is San Diego's first natural wine festival. She also serves as a board member and contributing writer of Compostre Mag, a twice yearly indie publication covering wine in San Diego and Baja California. You can also find Tami sharing her love of the San Diego wine community through social media and her blog at Wine in Tami Time. Today, Tami is a wholesale representative for Estate Wines Limited and WineWise. She's also preparing to launch her own business, Stay Classy Selections, which will be San Diego's first wholesale distributor featuring only San Diego County wines. Tami was planning to represent Escondido Leon Vineyards at the 2020 Cour until COVID, but we sure hope she can join us again when we're able to gather in large crowds and eat and drink again. I had the pleasure of meeting Tami at Holiday Wine Cellar's Natural Wines tasting event last year, where she was a panelist and also there sharing samples of some of our region's finest natural wines. Tami is here today to talk about the growing natural wine industry in Escondido and San Diego County. Let's please all raise a glass and give Tami a warm Rotary welcome. Cheers. Turn it to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That no one has ever sung a song for me before. That is just the neatest thing. Thank you. Okay, so natural wine is, there's a lot of controversy and we'll cover that. And let me start my PowerPoint here. Okay, here we go. So natural wine, what is it exactly? So you say, well, isn't all wine natural? It is not. I mean, theoretically, they all start by being grown by grapes and by being grown in the ground. But with the Industrial Revolution and the development of chemicals, wine has become something else altogether. And so that has started, I believe it's a desire for transparency and also the movement away from chemicals in the vineyard and towards organic produce. I think if you take the time and you spend the money on purchasing organic produce, then natural wine is just the next natural step. So, I'm not sure why I can't get this. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, natural wine. So, what we're going to talk about today is what exactly is natural wine. So we'll cover a little bit of the controversy. We'll talk about how it is and is not defined, and the two main elements that make a wine natural or not are firing practices and cellar work. And then I'll talk about opportunities for Escondido, where you can find it, and how you can help your neighbors that make natural and local wines. So first of all, the controversy. It's there is no legal requirements or labeling requirements. There's no definition. If you want to call your wine natural or clean, you are free to do so. This is what it's a term that I've made up. I don't know if anyone else is calling it this, but it's a marketing wine. So a lot of commercially made wines are marketing wines. If you see a large production wine like the 19 Crimes or things with really catchy labels, that is, people that, buy whatever juice that's already bottled, and they construct a marketing program around this wine to make a lot of money. Another thing that a knock against natural wine which is why there are some folks that don't take it seriously because it's derided as being full of flaws. So it is a natural wine, and because they don't use a lot of the chemicals and preservatives, wine can have more flaws. It can happen. And then there's also cases like where the wine is cloudier and it used to be considered a flaw, but now it isn't necessarily. So yeah, there is kind of a difference between a natural wine and a marketing wine. And so there are some definitions. In April of this year, the INAO, which is the governing board in France for wine, did start a new definition and a label that you can put on your wine. There was a group of wine growers from the Loire River Valley that pushed for this. And so if you see a wine bottle that says Van Method Nature, that means it is a natural wine and it is certified as such. It's been verified as such. And so what it means is that the vineyards were certified organic, and we'll talk more about organics in a minute. The wines were hand harvested. They had people harvesting instead of machines. And the wine was spontaneously fermented, which means they use the native yeast that it lives on the vines and in the wineries, and we'll talk about that a little bit more also. So part of natural wine is the concept of minimal intervention and not manipulating the wine. And so things like thermal vinification, where you heat the wine up to assist vinification, reverse osmosis, flash pasteurization, and cross-flow filtration are methods of manipulating the wine that would take away from the definition of being a natural wine. And there's a lot of talk about sulfur, and we'll probably talk about sulfur a lot because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about sulfur. But with the Van Method Nature, then you can add sulfur up to under 30 parts per million. Now the rose standard is something that I think of it in my own mind. There is a natural wine bar down here in South Park in San Diego. And because I sell wine, I don't take them wines that are not at least sustainably farmed. And we'll talk about some of the farming practices and what that means. And it has to be minimal intervention and native yeast fermentation. So when I think of natural wines, that's how I think of natural wines. And the thing about natural wine is that because there's so much attention paid to the wine, and because it has to be handled delicately, it is going to be a little more expensive than regular wines that are manipulated and have stuff added to it. And so I'll talk more about where to find these wines also. So there are some certifying agencies that you can look for when you are looking for these wines. The first and most important to, I think, California is the California Sustainable Wine Growing Alliance. And they give the certified California wine labels that you can add to your labels in your marketing when you go through this process. It's a very extensive process. It's a self-audit, and you basically improve upon your practices starting in the vineyard and with taking care of your staff and making sure that they are using the most sustainable processes always. It's very comprehensive. So far, only Ramona Ranch is the only San Diego winery that has it, but I know that the wineries that I work with are working towards it also. Sustainability in practice is another one that's more regional and particular to the Central Coast. And they focus a lot on how workers are treated and are they working in safe and fair conditions and being paid properly. The big one, of course, is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They have a very rigorous standard for being certified organic. and it's so rigorous that a lot of people choose not to do it, because the hard thing is that you're not allowed to add any sulfur at all. And sulfur is a very key preservative in wine, and it is natural and it is organic, so it can be used in natural winemaking also. But you can buy certified organic wines through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And then Demeter is the agency that certifies biodynamic farming. And we'll cover what that is, but it's basically very super organic, where you create a closed system, where you're creating a complete biosystem, and we'll talk about that when we talk about farming practices as well. So, farming practices. So conventional is conventional. There's no restrictions on the kinds of chemicals that you can use in your vineyard. You can just bomb it with Roundup to kill herbicides, to kill weeds. You can use chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizers as well. And the reason this kind of kills the soil in it, and it creates a circle of needing to, you've killed off all the biodiversity, so now you have to add a chemical fertilizer, which further impacts the environment and the supportive pests and cover crops that can help. And so it's kind of a vicious circle. And so sustainable, on the next scale up, is utilizing the very best practices possible. So I know that I work for Staley-owned vineyards, and Al Staley is the citrus and avocado grove management. His main business is citrus and avocados, but he manages over 60 acres of vineyards, mostly in Valley Center, and him and his wife own Staley-owned vineyards, and his daughter makes the wine. But he explained sustainable to me as doing the best practices. And so you minimize your inputs. And if you don't have to spray, you don't. And then it goes into organics, which organic is no chemical fertilizers. You can use organic plant-based herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers. And then you can go a step further into biodynamics. So with biodynamics, you not only don't use chemicals, you also grow your own plants to create the treatments that would take the place of the treatments. And it's, it's there, they do a lot of actions according to the moon. So there are certain days, on flower days and fruit days, it's supposed to be really great days to taste wine, but you're not supposed to taste on root day. But on root days is when you plant. So there are those who think it's a bunch of, cosmic, malarkey. But practitioners believe that it does make a difference, and it adds to life in the vineyard. One of the neatest examples I heard is I met a winemaker from Chile, and I don't know what the bugs would be called in English, but she called them burros, and I think they're maybe worms or something. But an example of, creating a full environment is that they had a hen house that they put on wheels. And whenever they saw the burros, they would wheel the hen house over, and then the chickens would eat the bugs. And then the chickens, of course, would, run around and fertilize the vines and, be part of that circle of life. And so farming practices are super important with natural wine, because if your vines are healthy and your grapes are healthy, then it's much easier to vinify grapes into wine that don't need a lot of treatments, because they are alive. And so once you get, and when I was talking to Vate, I think one thing that is worth pointing out is that you can farm organically, and you can read on the label, it says made with organically grown grapes. But what if you take those, you can still take the grapes into the winery and utilize, you can manipulate the grapes a lot, and it ends up actually not being a natural wine at all. So then cellar practices. So once you get to the winery, the grapes are ready to become wine. And so native yeast is, it's not, it's a, like so many other things, it is a winemaker's call, right? It's the kind of wine that a winemaker wants to make. And so one of the choices that a winemaker makes is, do you allow fermentation to happen using the yeast that just grow wild in the vineyard and in your winery? Or do you desire a little bit more control, and you can use cultured yeast? Being a beer town, of course, we have White Labs in San Diego that sells all the yeast to the beer makers, and they have catalogs this big of all the different kinds of yeast you can buy. And yeast can enhance aromatics. Yeast can alter the fermentation. They can make it ferment faster or slower or at colder temperatures. It can affect the body of the wine. And then sometimes if you, if the yeast isn't, behaving appropriately, you have to give it yeast nutrients and enzymes to prop it up. So, cultured yeast is more commonly used than native yeast, but so you can choose neutral yeast also. So, that's the first choice that one makes in the cellar. And then sulfur addition. So, sulfur is often, it gets a bad rap, but if you eat dried apricots, they have 10 times the amount of sulfur that the average wine does. Not even natural wine, the average wine has around 100 parts per million, whereas there's over 1,000 in dried fruit. So sulfur is not necessarily the bad guy that we think it is, but still in a minimal intervention winemaking, you would still want to minimize it, because the argument against a lot of sulfur is that it stifles aromatics also, and it does alter, the body and the flavor of a wine. But you do need it to kill the bad bugs, right? And to preserve the wine so that it's shelf stable and able to ship. And then aging vessels, most natural wines will not use oak, new oak, because it's adding another flavor to the wine. So there have been, they're called flex tanks, and they developed a high-tech polymer which mimics the oxygenization that a barrel has. Because a barrel's porous, the oxygen interacts with the wine and helps it develop. And so if someone uses a neutral barrel, then it would be because not to add the barrel flavor, but to have that oxygenization and the benefits of the oxygen exchange. But stainless steel is frequently used, as well as the flex tanks. And cement, concrete, amphora is very popular. Amphora are basically really huge pottery jars that they bury in the ground, that they're thousands of years old. It's really popular coming back now because they're kind of conical. The wine moves in the amphora itself and adds its own kind of flavor. And other additives. So there are over 70 things that you can add to wine because there are no labeling requirements you don't know about. There are winemakers like Randall Graham that kind of led the way in listing the ingredients on the wine, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. But these things are like sulfites. And just a note too, sulfites are a naturally occurring byproduct of the fermentation process. So every wine has sulfites because it's naturally there, but it'll be in lower levels, and there are wines made with no sulfur added. So there is a difference between no sulfur added and no sulfites. No sulfites doesn't exist. So then we talked about yeast, how that's one of the additives. Enzymes, so enzymes can prop up the action of the yeast and affect body and fragrance and aromatics and texture. Wine acids, so if you picked your grapes too ripe and your acid's low, you can add acid. Tannins, again, if you picked your grapes too ripe and it's kind of flabby, you can put in more tannins to give it more structure. Potassium sorbate is used used as a shelf stabilizer. So I work with a local winery that was making canned spritzers, and we had some blow up because they were he was trying to make the most natural possible thing, and they were on a shelf and they got warmer than was comfortable for the spritzer and they blew. So now we started adding just a little bit. And then clarifiers, I talked earlier about powdiness or haziness in wine and how it has been seen as a flaw, and there are still there are still those that think that it's a flawed wine that's hazy, but it's also a mark generally of a lack of treatment. So fining and filtration, you'll see that a lot. Unfined, unfiltered. So filtering is when they put it through a filter, but fining is when they add things to precipitate all the chunks to the bottom, basically. So bentonite is a clay. They use that. That's a vegan alternative. Egg whites is very it's common. And isinglass, also common. That is the bladder of a sturgeon. So various things have been used throughout time to make the wines clear. And if a wine is vegan, which can happen, it means that they didn't use any of the animal products to find the wines. And then yeast nutrients, of course, we talked about that earlier, things to feed the yeast. And you can ferment spontaneously and still use yeast nutrients, of course. And then lactic acid bacteria is used when a wine finishes primary fermentation. It's a winemaker's choice whether or not they put their whites through malolactic fermentation. So that's converting malic acid, so think of a green apple, into lactic acid. So that's more of a milk acid, right? So it softens the wine and makes it a little creamier. And sometimes they use lactic acid bacteria to inoculate, to make malolactic happen. All reds go through ML. They call it malolactic or mallow or ML. All reds do, but then again, it's winemaker's choice whether or not they like this. And then sweeteners, of course. If you want to have a sweeter wine, then you add sugar, basically. And it's usually they use a cane sugar or sugar syrups of some sort. So those are our wine additives. So where do I find natural wine in Escondido? So again, I'm biased and I work for what I think are two of the best wineries in Escondido, at the Sans V Tasting Room, and that is over on Enterprise off Auto Parkway between Stone and the Auto Park. It's a really neat operation because there are 5 wineries that share the facilities, and some of the, I think some of the best wines coming from our region. Obviously I'm biased, but they're very delicious. So Jay Bricks makes wine there. They source grapes from all over the state, including San Diego. You can find them online, and if you want to taste their wines, you would have to contact them personally and make an appointment, as they're not in the tasting room. Rancho Ejido makes their wines there, and so does Williams and Hine. Duncan Williams is a winemaker at Faulkner, and it's a small project that he does with his wife and business partner. And then, of course, Stalium Vineyards and Vesper Vineyards. Those are the two in the CNZ tasting room, and I believe they are the future of San Diego wine. So, you know, I saw pictures of your friends at Cordiano. So I think you do have an understanding that there is wine in San Diego. As of 2019, there are 142 active and planned wineries, and it's growing. You can find them at, oh, and another note about natural wine in Escondido and San Diego. I don't think it's an accident that I think the top wineries are using more natural methods. Chabrix and Vesper, particularly in Stalium, they all use natural to minimal intervention techniques. And I think that the purpose is to highlight the terroir and make the wine speak of where it comes from. And so everyone has different tastes. And so I ask you to discover your local wineries, and you can find that visitescondido.com has a really great winery page, and that will be the specific natural wine wineries in Escondido. The San Diego Urban Wineries Association just rebranded as Sept San Diego, and they have a number of wineries in Escondido also, including VK Cellars. Not all natural. They, you know, just like wineries and people, they run the gamut of different, they incorporate some practices, but not another. So, and they're working, they have a neat program called the Passport, which they're working on right now, so they don't have it. But if you go to their website, you can buy, for $35, you can taste at all 12 of the member wineries. You can have a free tasting. So it's a really neat program, and I encourage you to visit one of these urban wineries. And then, of course, the San Diego County Vintners Association. It includes, in San Diego Urban Wineries, they just started to allow cideries and meaderies also. So that's why they changed their name. So to expand membership and be more inclusive to alternative beverages to beer in San Diego. And then, of course, the San Diego County Vintners Association. They have quite a few members, and they have a really great wine festival. You can have wine festivals every year. So on their website, they list all the local wineries as well. I know the Holiday Wine Cellar also has natural wines. And Sept in Escondido on Orange is a very, Cassandra is a great champion for local wine, and she aims for her list to be half local wine also. So do support your local wineries. And if you would, when you visit restaurants and shops, ask for local wine. When you sit down, ask, you know, what do you have in San Diego wine? Because a lot of shops and restaurateurs and buyers, they don't know that the wine exists, and we're still getting the word out, right? So if there's pressure from customers and guests to bring in the natural wine, then they'll do it. So first, discover your favorite local wineries, and then when you go out to restaurants and shops, ask if they have San Diego wine. And in that way, we can support local businesses, we can support local families that are farming, and small businesses that that make wine. So what I ask of you is to ask questions. Ask, when you're buying wine, how is this farmed? How is it made? Are they, you know, spraying chemicals? Be adventurous. So I know it's easy to get into a routine of always buying your favorite Chardonnay. I've been guilty of that. But San Diego is not suitable for Chardonnay or Pinot Noir. So please try the Grenache Blancs and the Grenache and some of the crazy things that we're growing, because it's only been about 20 years that San Diego has been making wine in a serious way. And so, you know, folks like Al are planting all different grape varietals just to see what will grow here and what will work and what will like our climate. So try everything, and then shop small and drink local and support local business. All right, and then I think it's time for questions. Thank you.
Hey, wonderful. That's beautiful. What kind of questions do we have for Tami?
I have one.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Andrew?
Yes.
I have a question, a couple questions for Tami. One, as a sommelier, can you tell the difference whether something's a natural wine or not? And two, are all the additives that you listed make it not a natural wine, or it still could be a natural wine?
Okay, as someone who in the past 4 or 5 years have drank a lot more natural wines, I can't tell the difference. There's a weight, a heaviness on my palate when I drink conventional wines. And also natural wines tend to be lower in alcohol, so you can drink a little bit more of them and feel all right. And secondly, for your second question, you know, there's a spectrum, right? So if you just adjust the acid just a little bit, it doesn't make it an unnatural wine, right? So if you're adding a little bit of sulfur, you can still be a natural wine. But if you're making a natural wine, you're not going to add a lot of things, right? And so if you keep yourself on the lower end of the spectrum, it's still natural. It's just trying to avoid adding things, because there are natural winemakers that will put one of their cuvées in new oak, right? And because there aren't rules, it varies. So what we're looking for is minimal intervention and the least amount of necessary stuff in your wine. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Who else has questions?
Hey, Andrew, this is Roy. I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question about the crop yields with the growing grapes and with organic techniques. Is when you used organic techniques, is the number of pounds per acre of crop yield go down compared to traditional farming?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Okay.
And I think that with a lot of grape growers, they would green harvest anyways. A lot of folks drop fruit in order to have all the goodness and concentration go into a smaller amount of grapes to make a more concentrated wine. That's a really great question, but I think more with biodynamics, the yield might be a little bit lower. Because there is, more, they tend to have more cover crops that are competing for nutrients. But that's a really good question.
Tami, I have a question for you.
Yes.
If the grapes are mechanically harvested versus hand picked, can a mechanically harvested grape still be a natural wine?
It can be, but you can't do it in France and pursue the new certification, the Van Method Nature.
But in California, it could be done.
Oh yeah, there's no rules in California. Yes, it
Thank
can
you.
be. Yes.
Thank you.
Next question. Who did I see? Someone? Maybe not. All I saw was Justin raising his glass. Was that He is holding a natural wine.
What are you drinking?
What are you drinking, Justin?
Ripple.
Blackberry wine from Washington State.
Oh, delicious.
Wild.
Looks like Mad Dog.
How long did it take you to become a sommelier?
Well, I got certified through the Court of Master Sommeliers, and so about 2 years after I really became interested in wine, I took the introductory and the certified courses in the same year, and that was in 2007. And then I worked in restaurants for another 10 years after that. So I was certified in 2007, but the thing I love about wine is that I will never know everything.
Wine expert, maybe?
Sommelier is it's a French term, and it was literally the person in armies that attended to, that carried the food around and make sure the food got where it needed to go. Kind of like a pack mule.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And so now it's like wine related, and it's a lot more fun than that must have been.
Well, if we ever have a campaign, we'll hire you to carry our food around. How's that sound?
Sure. Are you gonna have wine?
Oh, if we hire you, absolutely.
Yes, you will definitely have wine if I'm around.
I mean, what wine is? It's fruit. It's yeast is bread, right? So you got a whole meal there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's what in Europe too. That's part of their meal, and that's why they have wine at lunch and stuff. It was extra calories for them to continue about their day also.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Does Bevmo or Costco carry any local wines?
No, not that I know of. I think they have in the past. But one of the things about most of the local wineries is that production is not large enough to supply a Costco or a Bevmo. Like Staley-owned Vineyards makes 900 cases a year. They sell most of it to the tasting room, and then it goes out in the local restaurants.
How do you spell Staley?
Staley, S-T-E, oh wait, S-T-E-L-Y.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you've heard of Staley Farms,
L-Y.
that is Al's brother. S-T-E-H-L-Y, yes. So it's a large farming family that has been in San Diego for a while.
Okay.
Right.
So, and then,
Lots of
so let
Staley's
me make
live
the
in Valley
point.
Center.
Go ahead.
So these local and natural wines, because they're small production, you're not going to find them in a grocery store. So you're at, Vaughn's and you pick up a wine and it's that clean wine that movie star is making now. It's probably more of a commercial wine because it takes so much energy and love, and it tends to be very small production. You really need to go to a place like HOWDY. You have HOWDY in your neighborhood. They carry natural wines. So you need to go seek out the specialty stores.
Okay, I know where HOWDY is.
Yeah. They're great.
Tammy?
Yeah.
Tammy, Amy Wondolowski. I have a question about it. My father and grandfathers made wine at home in barrels, and I don't recall them using additives. Can a wine ferment and become a wine by just not adding anything and considered natural?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They've been making wine for hundreds and thousands. They've been making wine for thousands of years.
That's the whole point.
And up until the 1940s, no one added anything to wine, until the Industrial Revolution that created all these advances in chemistry and things that you could add. That's exactly how wine was made for thousands of years.
Oh, thank you.
Stick it in a barrel and let it go.
Yeah. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take back control here. Tammy, would you be able to stick around if anyone has any questions after we end?
Absolutely. And
All
thank
right.
you so much for having me.
Oh, it is truly our pleasure. Thank you. And our song committee, everyone's applauding. That's nice. Our song committee, led by our most inquisitive wine drinker, Jay Grossman, will be providing you with a suitable to frame printout of your song, your fun song. So that is if he doesn't get into the wine too deeply. So real quick, I want to say welcome to a couple of members that joined after we started, Chip Landsey and Mark Burrows. Thank you for joining us today. And we will close out the official portion of the meeting with the shower thoughts. Humans probably enjoy pets and rubs just as much as dogs. It's just less socially acceptable. So ring the bell out to end the meeting. Oh, that wasn't very loud, was it? Was that? I don't know that that bell rang. That's
I did, because of a dud bell.
a dud bell. Well, that kind of figures, doesn't it? Let's see. Let's try this again. Ring the bell. Oh, that was just really subtle. That's really all there is to it. So thank you all for joining
That
us.
was very lame.
I guess we have to meet for the next week, 24 hours a day. Thank you for joining us. You guys have an amazing week.
I'll see you Tuesday.
What's that?
I'll see you Tuesday.
See you next
Drink to
Tuesday.
that.
Yeah.
Tammy here, so
Bye-bye.
ask your questions.
Thank you. Bye.
Just want to say thank you so much. You've made me super thirsty now, but I am sitting at my desk. My glass remains empty for now, but I'll look forward to 5 o'clock somewhere.
Just for now. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that helped.
It was truly a pleasure. That was one of the best, most enthusiastic meetings I've seen this year so far. So good stuff.
Cool.
Hey, hang on a second. I gotta mute mine. You guys keep chatting.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, or observations? What'd you think, Mate? Did I go over?
Oh, it was awesome. Really appreciate it. I'm sorry that we couldn't have you timed a little closer to Coeur than we would have. Everybody, Tammy was originally scheduled in, I believe, February, a couple weeks before the Coeur de Cuisine. So that kind of would have been fun and would have transitioned well, but now we're just going to hope that we can have this event again and we'll get you lined up. And I wanted to share with people, the Stelly family, they are all over Escondido and Valley Center, so very, very local. They're humongous. There's probably 55 cousins.
Yeah, they have to wear name tags at their family reunions.
I bet. My kids play sports with one of them, and there's at least 5 kids in that family.
Yeah.
Tammy, I've got a question for you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. This is Ken again.
Hi.
How about telling us maybe your favorite 2 wines and why?
My favorite 2 wines? Okay, first of all, it changes by the week. And I think it changes. One of my favorites is a Portuguese producer. Her name's Felipe Pato, and she farms biodynamically in Garada. And she makes really delicious traditional method sparkling wine. And she makes a rosé from the native Baga grape, which is native to that area. So I really love her wines. And of course, right now, I am very in love with and excited about, gosh, which one of my locals am I going to pick? The new Grenache Blanc from Stelio in the 2018 vintage is fantastic. And then Charlie and Echo, another local winery that I represent, their rosé this year is fantastic. And that came from a brand new vineyard called Valentina Vineyard out in Dulzura. And so it's the first year they're getting fruit from this vineyard. And so it's a Grenache and Sangiovese blend. It's wonderful. It's just everything you want in a rosé. Light, crisp, fresh, pretty, really great strawberry notes. So I would call those 3 my favorites right now. But it'll change next week. So.
Good.
Can you shoot me an email with those and I can share it with those who might be interested?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the driest white in town too would be great.
Driest white in town. Oh, Charlie Necco has a brand new Riesling from the same vineyard, and it is not German Riesling at all. It is just dry and crisp and linear. It's really fun. I'll make a list for you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Tammy? Well, Tammy, thank you so much for being a part of our weekly meeting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was super fun.
And we'll keep you posted when we have hopefully Coeur 2021 on the books.
Yes. Let me know how I can help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so I will go ahead and formally close this then. And thank you all for joining us. Mark, again, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you all next week.
Semana más.